Hey, welcome back to the shop here at Hemmings. Today we're getting back on our 1964 Comet Cyclone. Now you remember last time we did a front disc brake conversion, we put new wheels and tires on it, we put the original wheel covers back on, and we're all excited to take a test drive, but then it snowed. And that happens here in Vermont, but usually not this early in the year. That's kind of thrown a wrench in our plans, but it's okay. There's other stuff we need to do. Junior noticed that the pinion seal on the rear axle was leaking, and there's some other weirdness with the rear end, so we're going to dig into that today, take it apart, see what's going on with it, see what parts we need so we can get that back together and all sorted out so that we can get this car out before the real snow comes this year.
Those are not going to come off in a corner. So one of the things I noticed on this was this spacer, this wheel spacer. I hate these style because they're so thin, they're very easy to break over time. But the reason they had this on here was the shoulder on these studs protrude too far. So you can't actually tighten the rim up onto the drum surface, so they use the spacer to get it out. I want to change these studs on here. Unfortunately, because this shoulder sticks out so far, you can't do the old cheater, use a lug nut to pull the new studs in. So I got to take the axle off. So since I got to take this axle off, I've got to pull a stud out of the other side to match it up. We have a leak in pinion seal. We're going all in. We're just going to take this rear end apart. One, we'll get all the leaks and everything fixed, but also we'll know exactly what's in this differential. So we'll find out exactly which type of 9-inch, what the gearing is, make sure the bearings and seals are in good shape, and then we'll be off.
So what Junior and I were just talking about is that these axles appear to be different left and right. And I don't mean different length, I mean actually different. This side appears to be an original Ford axle. The other side has an aftermarket axle shaft in it. Looks like it's from Mosier Engineering. It's kind of strange that somebody would replace only one of the axle shafts, and that also seems to be maybe why these studs have so much shoulder on them. They may have been designed for the aftermarket shaft, which has a thicker flange, although they do protrude on that side too. So we're going to take it all apart, we'll see what's what, and see what we need to replace.
I'm trying to leave the whole brake assembly together so I don't have to take it apart. So I've got the brake line off, and now I'm just trying to get the parking brake cable out. But a little trick is, you put a hose clamp around it. There's 3 prongs that spread out and hit against the backing plate and hold the cable in. So if you put a hose clamp on, tighten those little 3 keepers up, then you can just punch it out. The cable comes out, and there goes the hose clamp. So now I should be able to undo the 4 keepers and the whole assembly should come out. This is a slide hammer. Probably one of the handiest tools that you hardly ever use. But when you need it, nothing else compares. That's it. Oh, we're making a mess. Here is our axle. 31. Excellent.
High performance.
But a nice little discovery we had. So I couldn't get under this before. I wasn't looking for it. This is a nodular diff, which means it's nodular cast iron, and it's stronger than your typical cast iron. Anybody that's looking for a 9-inch, they all want the nodular housing because it's stronger, and we're fortunate that we have one. There we go. Nope.
Ta-da.
There we go. I'm happy to see there was a gasket there, but it looks like they reused it, which would explain the excess of our TV. So what kind of carrier is that?
Oh, I thought that this had a true track, but then I remembered that I think Skip said it had a Detroit locker in it.
Oh, okay.
Which you can also get from Eaton still.
All right. I didn't, yeah, it doesn't look like a true track to me. It's got a date on it of 98. But does that look like 3.00 to you? I'm not exactly sure
Yeah, I can't tell.
what Ford uses.
All right. Well, I guess we gotta get to counting
Oh,
teeth.
but I don't wanna. So C4AW-8, if we wanna break that down.
And so the letter's a decade, the number is the year, and then it's car line and part type.
Gotcha.
So A, I don't remember what A is. I have to look it up. It might be mainline, like full-size car.
All right, well, let's get some parts ordered. So we got our 9-inch out. Full disclosure, I have never messed with a 9-inch myself. I have messed with plenty of other differentials, but not a 9-inch. So I'm kind of looking forward to digging into this one. But I thought the pinion seal, which is right here, was leaking. But as I look at it now, it's all wet around the pinion nut here, which leads me to believe that fluid is coming past the splines and the washer that's under this nut. Whenever you assemble one of these, you definitely want to put a good oil-resistant sealant underneath that washer to stop this. But we're going to go in and we're going to fix it anyways. So first thing I'm going to do is just pull the carrier support right off. Your hand is not a hammer. There are shims underneath this carrier, so I'm trying not to damage them. There's your pinion, there's your shims. These are what shim your pinion preload right there, which is kind of the beautiful thing about these is you don't have to disassemble the whole pinion. Once you set up your preload, then you install it and then you adjust your depth from there, which is actually kind of nice. But what I want to do now is take a bearing preload measurement, and there's pretty much nothing there. So what I have now is just a beam torque wrench in inch pounds. So all I'm doing is measuring rotational resistance, which is absolutely 0 right now. All right. I believe for a used pinion bearing it's supposed to be 10 to 15 inch pounds. So let's take this apart. It was locked tight. I'm happy to see that. But there is no washer. And if you look in the back of the nut here, you can see it's absolutely soaked in fluid. So this tells me that this was our leak, not our pinion seal.
So what have you found?
Well, it has what appears to be a very brand new looking seal in it. I don't see anywhere, it's all nice and shiny. And with the amount of miles that Skip has not put on this car, and same with the previous. Oh, what is that?
Is that hardened goo of some
Well,
sort?
that's some sort of goo, but that's not like an automotive goo.
And then it looks like there's more of that clear goo in
that's
there.
like clear bathroom silicone. That is not going to hold up to petroleum products. And you saw I tried to check the pinion preload and there was nothing there.
How about this O-ring here? You said there was RTV on that, right?
Yeah, we'll get another O-ring as well. And if it still leaks afterwards, the beauty of the 9-inch is you don't have to pull the carrier to do
You just pull that out.
the crush collar. You just pull the retainer out and do it on the bench. So
Cool.
I'm willing to take the chance.
Okay,
All right.
start making a parts list.
Let's order some parts.
All right, when we left off a few days ago, I needed to go order parts for this thing. And in getting into that, I discovered a lot more variations in 9-inch parts than we anticipated. So we had to do some more measuring. And then when you started measuring stuff, we made some other discoveries.
Yes, the plot thickens. I discovered that our oil slinger that goes up here on the outer bearing wasn't even there. So we needed that. So once I took the seal out, might as well take the pinion out, take a look. We're going that deep. But once I took the pinion out, I noticed that there was no crush collar. The crush collar goes right here in between the two bearings. And as you tighten up the yoke, it literally crushes this. And this gives resistance between the two bearings and sets up the preload on the bearings. So there was no preload on these bearings. If we went to put a bunch of miles on this, it would have completely tore this apart. So we weren't sure if we were going to go with the crush collar or if we were going to go with the stacked shims. The stacked shims are actually a much stronger setup. These crush collars, they're great for just everyday driving, but if you're going to do any hard launches or anything like that, they can be known to loosen up over time. So the shim pack is a much better way of doing this, and it's much more involved. The fact that we have a nodular case, a Detroit in it, we do have the large Daytona pinion bearing support here, and you can tell that because the inner bearing is a lot larger. If this wasn't a Daytona, as I understand it, both these bearings would be the same size. So we've got all this good stuff going on. Why would we put the weaker crush collar in? So we're going to go for the stacked shims. And typically, if you're switching from a crush collar to stacked shims, you can take your old crush collar out. That'll give you a baseline measurement to set up your shims. We don't have this, so this is going to be a lot of putting the pinion in and out, tightening it, and checking for preload. Now, a lot of confusion is what's the torque value on your pinion nut? Well, if you're doing a crush collar, there is no torque value. The value you're looking for is the inch-pounds that it takes to rotate the pinion. Now, if you're doing the shim stack, that is where you want 200 foot-pounds. Do not try to do 200 foot-pounds on a crush collar. All you're going to do is crush these bearings and destroy them. Very, very important little bit of information that seems to be lost out there in the ether. So I'm going to start trying to set this up, and it's probably going to take me several times until I get it just right. And because we're going with the used bearings right now, because they are still in good shape, I'm going to shoot for 15 inch-pounds of preload to be able to rotate in the bearings.
And then there's also the question, because this wasn't put together really right, you're not 100% that the ring and pinion are okay.
If they assembled this one, it was assembled with tub and tile silicone. Don't ever use this stuff. This stuff doesn't belong anywhere near petroleum products. So that's a big no-no there. And missing the crush collar on here. Now I'm kind of guessing the work that went into this. So I do want to set this up the best I can. I do want to run a pattern on the gears, see how everything feels. If we can't get a good pattern, we may have to get another set of gears because I don't know if any damage has happened. I mean, I can look at it, you can see it looks fine, but ultimately it's the pattern that matters. That and obviously bearing preload, but pattern is very, very important.
Okay, so first step?
First step, going to take a wild guess at what our shim pack is going to be, and we're just going to assemble it and see what kind of preload we get. hear the slop in between the bearings, so I've got too many shims in there. So take some up. No more slop in there, but it's still too loose. A little bit closer. A little bit tighter. Take a couple more thousandths out. Oh, that feels better. Might still be a little loose, but I do need to get it under tension. I'm leaning on the lever here on the press just to try to get some preload on those. That might still be a little loose, but let's put the yoke on, tighten it up, and see what we get. I'm just gonna put the yoke on here. Like I said, I don't have the seal in yet. And I'm also reusing the old pinion nut. Now, pinion nuts are a one-time use, and this one actually came with thread locker on it, but it's also a locking nut. So we'll show you, but this top little collar here is actually distorted, so it puts a lot of tension on the threads. And what I did with this one is I just shaved that distortion off the very top. So now this will just thread it on and off very easily, and it won't damage our one-time use nut, and it also won't damage the pinion threads. And I'm just going to torque it down 200 foot-pounds, and we'll check our pinion preload and see what we have. And don't forget your shims like I almost did. Bolt pattern on this pinion support is asymmetrical, so it only goes one way. And that's not it. That's it. What I have here is just some gear marking compound, and it's going to indicate how these gears, pinion and ring gear, mesh together and show us what the contact patch is and how they are in relation to each other. And then I'm going to keep some tension on the pinion as I rotate this through one way and then the other. Oh, and that's pretty god awful. Let me do that again and get a better contact if I can. Oh, that's a god awful pattern.
I saw the paste come out. I thought this was where we were going to get good news.
Nope, this is not good news. You can see on the coast side here, we're way up at the top of the tooth, centered nicely, but very little contact. So on coast, this would probably make a lot of noise.
Okay.
And then we look at our drive side, the convex side, and it's a very kind of mismatched pattern. It's centered well, but it's very sharp. We're probably looking at another gear set.
Okay. All right, our 9-inch has thrown us a little bit of a curveball. We went into this thinking, oh, we're just fixing a leak. Now we're into a full rebuild, but it just goes to show you never really know what you're dealing with on an old car until you get fully into it. We look at this car and it's in such nice shape. We assume that everybody who worked on it before us did everything the right way, but assume and you know what happens. So that's okay. I'm gonna order some new parts. I'm gonna get a fresh ring and pinion. When you come back next time, Junior's gonna show us how to set that up correctly so that it doesn't make any noise and lasts a long time. In the meantime, keep an eye on Hemmings' social media channels. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you next time.